Hello and welcome. This is Ravina from the Hindu, and today we are here to discuss how AI is going to reshape the legal education and the legal job market. So yeah, AI has been disrupting and changing a lot of almost all the fields. But in legal field there are some specific ways in which it is changing things. For example, a law firm recently deployed an AI tool, and they are using it to streamline their processes like research and drafting, which usually takes up a lot of time. Also, one of the things that we know about Indian judiciary is that there is this persistent issue of case backlogs. It's something that we hear when we are in school, and a textbook reading of what are the issues in Indian judiciary. So to resolve it, recently there has been a huge budget allocation. It is about 7,000 crore rupees, which has been dedicated to the e-courts phase 3 project. Now that total amount is for digital transformation, but about 53 crore in that is specifically for AI and blockchain technologies. So what we do know is that in the job market where the jobs lie, AI is being deployed. It's not that, even though there is skepticism, the way the job market functions is changing. So are law schools keeping up with this? Are law schools ensuring that students will be employable in this arena where AI is now deployed in judiciary? So to discuss this, we have some panelists, expert set of panelists. We have Dr. Shavik Kumar Guha, who is an associate professor at NUJS Kolkata. We have Rohit Sharma, who is the founder of law firm Reddy, and we have Ms. Sonam Chandwani, who is the managing partner at KS Legal and Associates. So yeah, I think we can start with opening remarks. Rohit, would you like to go?
Sure. Thank you, Ravina, for that introduction, and welcome to all of you. Good to have Shavik with the panel where I was once in his classroom listening to his lectures in corporate law, and now sharing an online panel with him. So I'll share some draft, if you can see, impact of AI on legal fraternity. I always start with my one of my favorite cricketer, Rohit Sharma, who is not no more playing in the Test series which is going on right now. I'm a founder of Law Firm Ready, an organization which basically works to bridge the gap between few developed law schools and less developed law schools, and to see where the future of legal education lies, what kind of future lawyers we expect from the legal industry. So I have sort of created this like an iceberg of legal education. If you can see my screen, if you see that we have been seeing some events which includes that there have been lesser and lesser law firms and high paying jobs for a large part of population. There was the Mint article which said 98% of the graduates don't have access to that jobs. There's increasing level of a lot of lawyers graduating from with a poor skills, or maybe less marketable skills, I would say. There's a increasing isolation and bad mental well-being across industries in legal fraternity, and there's an poor quality legal education in most of the universities. And when I say poor quality legal education, I'm not specifying to the so-called tier 1 law schools, but generally as a whole. And if we go deeper to this, we can find some patterns that there has been certain hierarchization of national universities and less developed law schools over the decades. Supposedly, if we go back into the history of creation of national universities, earlier they were planned to be a model university, like they were supposed to train other regional law schools in their states. And I believe that in last few decades, instead of empowering the other law schools, NLUs have otherized a lot of regional law schools, which has created in sort of a hierarchization within legal education, so which leads to bias within job markets as well. Then litigation is still a matter of privilege. Most of the alternate job market are not paying as much, so there's a lot of also crisis of job market which is paying decently to a law graduate. And a lot of it is also like largely English centric. If you want to practice in a high court, then you definitely get an access of English, which a lot of law schools are still not training our students for. then I would say that still academia and education is the last resort with no practitioner mindset. A lot of people who are entering academia are also people who are first maybe trying with a law firm job, maybe trying with other jobs, and then end up doing LLM in India. And it's unfortunate that we are seeing academia, which is probably the center part of legal fraternity as a whole, as the last resort in a larger context, I would say. And I would say there has been an over dumping of clerical work on on faculties. We talked to a lot of faculties, and they said that most of their time is going in administrative tasks, so they are not able to focus on what are the new tools which they are required to use in classrooms. And there has been general lack of faculty training. And additionally, overall, the good LLM and good masters academy from an academia point of view require like a higher. Generally, legal education is quite expensive if you want to go for a quality law school. But even if you want to do LLM, if you have done an undergrad in a good law school, they would definitely would like to go for a good LLM, which is like sort of a condition precedent to become a faculty in most colleges. So it requires a certain kind of privileges. But when we go deeper into underlying structure, we see that 5-year law programs have largely failed. The idea of 5-year law program came that we will create more social engineers, and maybe that we need to reassess where have we gone wrong. Maybe when post globalized world, a lot of advent of new law firms entered into Indian market, the idea of a national university was not just to cater to corporate world, but also to cater to society, right? And if we say that there's a high fees. If you see an average law school charge like 3 to 4 lakhs, and in India top 10% have access to monthly 30,000 rupees per month sort of a job. So you can imagine that um, annual income is 3.5 lakhs for top 10%, and that's sort of an annual average fees of an national university as well, and even a top private law school for that matter. So there's also sort of like a high fees, and there's no political will towards nationalization of national universities. There's a structurally English centric. If you see CLAT as an exam, or all the other exams, they're still like all subjects come in English language. We are not focusing on how to democratize. We have new education policy in place, but we are still not talking about how to democratize legal education as a whole. And there's a practitioner perspective missing. Maybe Shobik sir is still in touch with a lot of practitioner, but there are very few faculties who actually are utilizing those tools to teach in students. And when we talk about the most fundamental mental models, what is the purpose of law? And what is the purpose of law school? We need to reassess as a society, as a community of legal fraternity. We need to ask the question: what should law school train towards? What do citizens expect from our systems, which includes lawyers, which includes legal systems, which includes criminal justice systems, right? What do we mean by learning? How to absorb lakhs of lawyers in the limited industry where like there are very few jobs. So we are creating law schools like anything. Maybe we are shutting down journalism school and maybe opening more law schools because the money is more there. So kudos to you, Ravina, that you are still in a world where increasingly journalists are decreasing and more lawyers are being created. And where do we see the future? Like we're under trial in India are 75%. Mental health crisis is increasing. We can see earth is heating like anything. So where do we need to also question like the mental models of legal fraternity as a whole, that how where do we go from there, right? And I would see if we see the top 10 Gen AI use cases. If you see in 2025, this is one of the data by filter.com, and of course it's maybe just an illustrative list. If you see that in 2025, most of the people who are using AI is for therapy, companionship, organizing my life, finding purpose, right? Enhanced learning, generating code. So if you see that the purpose is also shifting from what we see as AI to, and a lot of people are growing isolated. If you see young people are spending more time alone in US, Europe, even in India for that matter, there's an increasing isolation. So where do we go from here, is one of the question. And I would just end up my opening remark with this meme that we artificial intelligence might kill our natural stupidity, which is sort of opposite of the term. And maybe we are trying to curve and how to ensure that our natural stupidity as a human, on what make us human, retains, and how to build better lawyers for future. With this, I'll just close my opening remarks.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Rohit. So I think you have summed up what are the underlying issues in legal education right now. Moving on to Shovik sir. Shovik sir, how do you think AI can change the issues that Rohit was talking about? Can it make it better? Can it make it worse? How do you think it is going to shift that?
Okay. Well, I always find my students to be a tough act to follow, but I will try. Rohit has managed to provide a very succinct, comprehensive summary of the problems that legal education in India specifically has been facing now. But I also think that today we are at a place where legal education is standing on this, edge, this precipice of transformation. The legal field is changing, and once technology gets introduced in a certain field, you cannot keep tech out of it forcibly. And I have personally always, try to consider that if the purpose of education is to help people learn more, better prepare themselves for the world that waits outside them, the university, right? So they have to be able to think, we develop critical thinking, but at the same time they also have to become a professional. That's one of the differences between law streams like medicine, law, etc., because it also creates practitioners. It's supposed to create practitioners. So keeping that in mind, we cannot consider, I mean, our students have to master these advocacy skills. They have to do so with precision. They have to be agile. And our traditional teaching methods often fall short of, I think, there's this continuous and personalized feedback which is necessary for our students. Now, this gap is not because of only there is a lack of effort or there is a lack of expertise from law professors. There are plenty of competent professors around, but it's also a consequence of some of the most inherent limitations of conventional educational structures. So as the profession is changing, and Ravina and Rohit, both of you mentioned how law firms are now embracing AI related solutions, how it is making things a little bit more efficient, etc. So we have to also think of some innovative and scalable solutions in education. And for this purpose, law school must adopt a methodology, a pedagogy, which will effectively scale personalized learning to bridge this gap. Imagine a scenario where there is a tool, AI tool, which is designed by a law professor and a tech engineer together, and that simulates a real world experience for the students. Because that's what we keep on talking about. That our classrooms don't really tell us what to do, how to practice law. It's only theory. Where is the practical element of it? How do I use whatever I am learning somewhere? So there can be instances, as in we already have AI powered tutors, and while they do not by any means whatsoever they are a substitute for faculty, but they can provide the students with that additional guide, additional specific feedback. Because think about it, I mean, currently when I had started studying at NUJS myself, our batch was around 90 strong. Today our batch is all in all we have close to 190 students. There are law schools with over 800, 900 students in a batch. Now, how is it a teacher is supposed to give personalized feedback and prepare these people specifically? So that's where, I mean, there's a gap, and this gap is something which we can try to bridge with technology. There are problems, as in with regard to technology and AI based technology for the purpose of coming up with these solutions. One of the biggest issues is accuracy. That's something which we face. And there is also the factor that completely unregulated and unsupervised use of AI tools, especially at a formative age for law students, that also has the disadvantage of robbing them some of the critical thinking power that they have, some of the cognitive powers that they have. And there have been studies which we have been talking about it. But there have also been studies which says that if you try to help these students master these tools in a supervised manner, in an ethical and responsible fashion, then they tend to do well. And that's not I don't think those studies should be ignored completely. Because see, I don't know whether AI will ever replace a lawyer or a judge. Personally, I don't think so, as in my own work takes me to work in close quarters with AI development, and I don't think that is going to happen anytime soon. But this does not mean that there are not bottlenecks in our legal system which cannot be sorted out by people who know what they're doing with a little bit of help from AI. That's what the intervention part rise, right? So I have students now, alumni now, who are going ahead and curating AI-based solutions which are being adopted by law firms, which are being adopted by in-house legal teams, etc. So that those solutions are happening now. Just like I keep on saying this in my I own to my own contemporaries also. That see, when we had started our own legal education, case law research was something which was also changing. Our predecessors, generations before us, have used some of these, huge thick AIR manuals, which came to be synonymous with legal profession. You watch any popular media representation of a lawyer's chambers, you will find it full of all those books. But we were not taught to search for case laws using those. Technology had come. We had databases, where case law databases which we were going for. So that does not mean that, if our teachers had forcibly taught us, no, you will have to use deliberately, physical case law volumes to do your case law research, that wouldn't have helped. So similarly, I believe that the time has come, and we will of course have a prolonged discussion, but I don't think that the time has come for law universities and law teachers and the decision makers to completely take they keep a closed wall and a closed approach with regard to the good things that AI can do. And if we want, because as I said, these students end up learning the most outside classroom. But so we can't stop them from using the tools, right? But we want them to use the tools responsibly. And how else are they going to use the tools responsibly unless and until we are the ones who are teaching them responsibility and ethical usage of the tools? So that's something, on which I will like to end my closing opening remarks, and of course we will have specific discussions. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So, like you just spoke about how there are huge batches, like how the student strength has gone from 90 to 190, and there are some law schools which has like 800 students, and it is not possible to give feedback, individual feedback. I remember recently one of the institutes, one of the IIMs, they have deployed an AI tool which monitors. So they have this case study where they need to do group discussions, and that is observed by an AI tool, and they get personalized feedback through that. So maybe something like that can be done for moot court competitions, or moot court debates that law students do. It's very similar, if not the same. So yeah, that, and we can't. It's not possible to completely shut down on bringing anything remotely AI in the curriculum, because the job market has already moved forward. So yeah, that's what she also said. Sonam ma'am, would you like to give some opening remarks?
Yeah, hi Ravina. Hi, thanks for having me. So of course, I mean, they said it rightly that now the AI will be ruling the world. So of course, we should be having AI in the curriculum as well. So what I think is that AI is must for students aiming to join law firms. As I am running a law firm, so I'll talk from that perspective. So of course, we have changed how firms work, or what we expect from new hires. So to prepare law schools need a curriculum that's simple yet practical, equipping students for job firms at like, big firms. Amarj and Khaitan are also, adopting AI fast. So students should learn AI basics in plain terms, like, how machine learning can dig through court rulings or to predict outcomes, or how natural language processing speeds up reading contracts under the Indian Contract Act. So they don't need to be the tech geniuses. Of course, that's not our forte, but just understand how AI helps firms save time and win clients. And what I feel is hands-on practice is key. So like we are also using AI whether we are unable to find the relevant judgments, or we are unable to do a research and within the specified time. So we also use AI in terms of finding the relevant case laws, because that comes handy and that is helpful. So these skills makes new hires valuable, as firms use AI to cut cost also on big cases. So there's also another thing, which is ethics is a big deal here, as AI can it's making mistakes, like giving wrong judgments. And also it is very important to understand and read the subject and ensure that the results that are the outcomes are efficient. So students also need to learn how to spot and fix these biases to keep firms out of trouble. So that is very important. It's not cut copy paste, which will work if we are using AI. It is only working in terms of taking or seeking help from AI, but not end to end job will never be possible to be done through AI. So what I think is that it's very critical, as firm handles private clients data, or face hefty fines in case there is any slip up. So students should know how to keep AI secure and also follow some basic rules. So they need to also understand, which will help them, taking care of the task, which will help them speed up due diligence in case of mergers or in case of checking compliance. We are also doing SEBI regulation, so we also advise on compliance. So also AI comes handy in terms of conducting due diligence, preparing the checklist, or going through the contract review. So it is very helpful. So they must learn to double check AI's work. As I already highlighted, they can misread legal terms, like they are not the experts. But when we are using Manupatra, so we also try and use Grok or try and use Chat GPT whenever we are unable to find the relevant judgment. So my suggestion is that it is very helpful. It is not completely supportive in terms of relying on AI, but it is definitely coming out to be a big help for us. So I suggest that we should definitely be having a basics in terms of teaching them about AI.
You're on mute, Ravina.
Sorry. Yeah. So yeah, what you are talking about, that there can be some slip ups, or AI can hallucinate at times. So
Yeah.
I was just researching for the webinar, and I read Justice Gowai, who is now the Chief Justice. He said in Kenya, he had been there, and he said that this is costing firms a lot of money. There
Yes.
have been cases where AI has hallucinated and it has cost the firm money, and there have been
Yeah.
legal issues on that.
Yeah.
So, my now let to zoom in into the topic. I want to ask, if AI is to be brought in the curriculum, how do we teach students to not fall prey to these mistakes, so that doesn't cost them their job, or that doesn't cost firms lawsuits? What can we do?
You're
Well,
asking me,
yeah,
or
Yeah.
I mean, directly the
No,
question to very specific.
both of you can answer. You
sorry.
can take turns.
Please.
Yeah, so Rohit can start. I mean, we are going line by line, so Rohit can start.
I think Shobikda and you have like more forte in this domain. I'll maybe go after. Yeah, over to you.
Okay. See, the thing is, of course, unchecked and unfiltered use of AI. If you look into all of the cases where scenarios where it has been found out that somebody has submitted a draft prepared by AI, or somebody has submitted research prepared by AI, and something has been found to be inaccurate, something has been found to be, a result of hallucination. All of those have some one thing in common. The person who was supposed to have the responsibility to present this work, they did not double check the work. Now, this is not, I mean, I would say that this is a fairly similar thing that can happen, that if in a firm you have given, you are at a partner level and you have given some work to say, an associate, and the associate has pawned it off to an intern submits some work, the associate without looking at it passes off to the partner without looking at it passes off to the client, there is a problem. In fact, there have been past instances of such problems. Is it really any different than this? Slightly. It is because of the fact that we tend to rely, at least on a lower level, as in people without that much of an expertise, they tend to rely that whatever is coming out of AI related, AI based models, etc., is gospel truth. And this is something which we have to, disabuse them of this notion rather. So it's about a very simple thing. You want to use AI for writing a drafting any piece of contract or something, great. How will you figure out that the AI has done the right thing? If you know how to draft that contract, it is still going to save you a lot of time. Instead of somebody writing a contract from scratch, if they are given 10 different fast cuts of 10 different contracts just to review and check, their efficiency level is still going to go high, right? So, but that has to come along with supervision. Similarly, if you don't have the writing skill, you don't have the argumentative skill, then how are you going to check AI's work? So this is why people like Sonam, who are established professionals, they can see an AI work, they can figure out, oh, this case, something is fishy about it. Let me just cross check it and see whether that is the case. Now, this is the awareness that we have to build in the students, right? And that awareness you were talking about some time back about this Moot thing. So there actually have been an AI called Moot Mentor AI, not used in the Indian context yet, but it has been used elsewhere, and people have found that it gives amazing feedback to students for the purpose of training them for Moot purposes. Why we have to go to the AI? Think about specific tutorial requirements, right? So the Khan Academy videos providing customized tutoring solutions for people that has been shown to improve people's capacity. So it's not only a question of how to use the tools, it's also a question of figuring out that what are the tools limitations. So instead, say for example, when AI based LLMs, large language models, started happening, ChatGPT and everything, I knew, because I had access to those models, I knew that our traditional methodology of giving students a piece of essay to write as an assignment, those days are gone, because it's too much of a temptation to just give a prompt to a ChatGPT and get a 5,000 word essay in 10 minutes or 10 seconds these days. So what are we going to do? So we have to figure out, say, one of the alternative solutions which I explored is that I can actually ask the student, if you are using a large language model, fine, divulge it, and then give me a line by line critique of the assignment that the large language model has produced. See whether the cases which have been used are to be used in those cases, scenarios, whether there is an extra case which the model has missed, whether there is a jump in logic that it has made. It has talked about certain provisions. Are those provisions really applicable here? So I want a line by line critique of that. And if my intention is to actually help the student research, help the student learn about the problem more, that can get sorted that way. I'm just giving one way. There can be a lot of practical ways. You can have AI literacy workshops. You can build grassroots faculty-student initiatives beyond the classroom. You can mainstream AI into the existing curriculum. One of the biggest issues that we face is that lack of innovation and imagination inside classrooms, right? So I'm teaching them about a certain scenario. I can use AI to come up with multiple different case studies or multiple different possible ways in which the students can actually attack a problem. Simulation techniques. There can be hundreds of different things. This is not a discussion, but all of them require one thing. The universities and the recruiters, the established people in the industry, they will have to come together, and they will have to have a consensus in this matter that we want the students to use this responsibly to help the clients, because that's the end deal, right? We help the clients, whatever helps the clients. Client is not going to consider where I have got the material from, provided the material is accurate in nature. Yeah, I'll give it over to Sonam now.
Yeah, Sonam ma'am, would you like to?
Yeah, I think it's very important for us to strike a balance, right? Law is all about reasoning, interpretation, justice, and ethics. I mean, no AI can replace human lawyer. I mean, we have to replicate. We cannot, no machine can, fully replicate human-centered skills. So I understand that, we must ensure that these foundational skills are not lost, but are, actually enhanced by technology. So my approach would be to, use it as an integration and non-replacement. For example, in case if we are in law college and we are teaching contract law, so introduce AI contract review tools, and which are being used by law firms right now. So let them question why certain clauses are flagged, and why, understand the interpretation of AI, and this will help them strengthen their legal reasoning while, like, exposing them to new tools. Also, we must encourage critical thinking about technology. I mean, students shouldn't just learn how to use AI, but also when not to rely on AI. So it is very important to question and understand the also reasoning with the AI is very important. It's more of it's interdisciplinary teaching, such as combining law with basic tech or ethic modules. Students will get a broader understanding of how technology interacts with society, rights and responsibility, and also it will help them to reason and question the outcome of the AI.
Thank you so much, ma'am. So yeah, I think what more or less what we are saying is that students need to improve their critical thinking skills, which is also something that I've come across. Since AI has been deployed, the one thing we are losing is critical thinking skills, because we don't really, if some, like sir said, that if somebody is given an assignment to write an essay, so if I'm doing it on my own, I will think and have a debate with myself and then write the essay. But if we are having asking the AI to directly write the essay, and then not even trying to think critically about what the essay that AI has written, then I think we are fundamentally moving towards an age where students don't think critically, which is needed more in the age of AI.
Sorry, Ravina, I would just like to intervene here a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't really think that the issue is that the students are not thinking critically. I believe that, see, as teachers, it is our responsibility to design assignments which will help students think critically. Imagine a scenario where, there was a point of time when these essay assignments were not there. There was a 100-mark exam paper, right? I mean, our predecessors have gone through that kind of education. That actually that does not mean that they did not learn to write, but for a lot of them that was a struggle. They had to learn it separately. So similarly, if when things are changing, when the access to different types of technology, different types of instruments become more easier, it is for us to realize that our evaluation pattern, our assignments, our pedagogy perhaps needs an overhaul. It's not about students not being able to think critically. It's about us not being able to train students to think critically. So, and I believe that there is a very big difference between the two. For the most part, we are still going for the easy option. That whatever is happening, let status quo prevail. Students are somehow have to be told that this is something you do not do. This is no, this is an unethical thing. This is an illegal thing. This is X, Y, Z. All of that is true. But how are we trying to figure out that the student understands in the face of temptation, in the face of the easy way out? How is it that I'm trying to test the student's ability? It's not that the students are losing the critical ability. It is that we are unable to nurture the students in order to gain that ability out of them. And that approach, I believe will make all the difference.
Yeah. I get your point. So the onus lies a lot on the teacher too, on the kind of assignments they give. So,
Yeah, also in I'll take one example, like in family law. Also, I do not practice family law, but in family law you have to be understand the emotions of the client. Sometimes the disputes are involved between husband and wife. You cannot just cut copy paste what AI is thinking. You need to have that judgment, ethics, content, human intention behind that matter. So it's not just that you can completely rely on AI. It's more of personal and emotional interaction with the client at that point in time. That AI cannot, we cannot use AI in those matters.
hmm. Yeah.
Absolutely. And that is exactly what we refer to as the last leg of lawyering. Now, this is not something which technology will ever be able to do. So
Yeah.
maybe the time has come that if we try to teach a little bit of that in law school, which was actually never done in law schools that I am aware of, now that will help the students figure out, oh, this is something which we can do better than AI. So why should I give this kind of thing to the AI? Let's learn it better.
Yeah. I think that's something since Rohit was comparing law schools and journalists, the whole thing. Even at J schools, we are not taught how to interact with a family when it's a difficult situation. So I think that human part of it, which AI cannot replace, that yeah, I think that can be integrated into the curriculum. But yeah, so moving on, taking the topic to a slightly different tangent. Rohit, could you talk about, do you think that AI could bring in more inequalities in law education?
Yeah, so I think I would first say that of course that there's a lot of potential on AI bridging the gap between different learning styles, but at the same time, who has access to these tools? I think that is another question which we need to ask. Most of the law schools are, and it's so funny that we had a lot of mentees in our last batch who are still submitting handwritten assignments, and compare that to a premier law school like NLS or NLUD or maybe Jindal for that matter. What kind of assignments they are giving? They are giving simulation, they are giving AI chatbot. So of course, the, one kind of inequality is not just language but also the access to technology. Second level of things which AI can have a lot of potential to create barriers is people who know about AI. They can build their resume. They can do, and there has been innumerous amount of publications which are like I call that sham publications, which people are doing through AI. Like they're writing articles through AI and then getting it published through sham publication formats, which a student who is studying from a regional college in say Kashmir, they might be using AI for maybe smallest thing, but person who don't have laptop, who don't have say good access to say smartphones for that matter, because there are a lot of law students who don't have that also. So that has a potential of bringing bridging the gap further. So that is first level of inequalities which we believe. Secondly, some of the faculties are also training, especially in the premier law schools, who have access to the best AI tools. They are training their students for future employment. So even the future of jobs would be very different than what we are seeing. So there is a hierarchization and access of law firm jobs, But even for tomorrow, like tomorrow there are suppose five new kind of job which are coming, for example climate tech, or maybe legal tech, data protection. Even on those new jobs, there is a significant head start which a lot of law schools are getting, which again brings to a point where, like, why are we not seeing that there are more than 2000 law schools in India, and why are we just focusing legal education just to like maybe 30 and 40 law schools? So AI is not the only reason why these inequities are being built, but also by design these inequities will increase substantially when if we don't make AI as a norm, like how we see Indian Kanun, which is one of my favorite platform, which democratize legal research like anything. How we can accept that for any law school, AI and can be like a norm for everyone, right? And of course, understanding with all the ethics and all the politics of AI as well. Another thing which I also want to say is that the reason I still see AI from a third world scholar point of view. The reason I say that AI will further create more inequities also, that most of the models are still trained on Western male based scholars, right? There has not been input on training of large language models on Hindi scholarship, Bengali scholarship, Marathi scholarship. Most of this is also like European central scholars. So who decides what is right knowledge, right? Whenever we ask about future of knowledge, how can we also document our own Indian indigenous population's knowledge as a valid form of knowledge through AI? Like what are the tools which we can build? So we need to ask these important questions also. When AI responds on certain knowledge forms, what is it basing on? Is it just European white man knowledge base, or is it also more diverse in terms of population when it gives an output? So these are few thoughts on AI creating further new inequities.
Yeah, thank you so much, Rohit. Moving on, I actually want to talk to Sonam ma'am about, are there any particular job roles that could diminish?
No, not really. In terms of legal, I don't see that. Even though I'm being positive and pessimist about it, but I don't think so that there's any job role that would diminish. Of course, there is huge reliability in terms of using drafting contracts, using these tools and all. But of course, at the end of the day, lawyers have to review, understand the client intent behind making those contracts. So it's not completely replaceable, as I already highlighted. That it's not possible for any AI to at least eliminate lawyers anytime soon, maybe 20 years down the line, not immediately.
Okay, that's a
I,
good thing. No.
No,
I
yeah, go ahead, Rohit.
I, on the other hand, think it is gonna take away a lot of jobs on an entry level. Maybe all the iterative task, which includes maybe documentation, basic research, will be taken away, because a large part of population who does not come from developed law school has dependency on certain jobs, which includes like basic contract drafting, basic things, right? And
Yeah,
and and
yeah, of course. I mean, I'm with you on that, Rohit. So that's what I said, that dependency in terms of juniors who are not that skilled, who we use
yeah.
it to prepare first draft, or just start with a basic draft. So that of course will affect their jobs, but it will not definitely eliminate them, because we still need juniors to run around the courts and assist with client briefing or counsel briefing, preparing summaries,
Yeah,
going
yeah,
through
correct.
such huge documents. So there's still a dependability on juniors.
And actually, if you come to think of it, there are certain very interesting structural inequalities which also come to forth when this question comes into picture. One thing is that, of course, I don't think that AI is going to take away the job of a lawyer. But as has been stated by other people, lawyers who are trained in AI, they can take away the job of those lawyers who are not trained with AI. But if we look into it, and from a purely legal historical point of view, this is not something which is very uncommon. When computers were introduced at one point of time, a lot of people who failed to adapt to that kind of technology, they ended up, getting superannuated. And I'm not saying that that is the desirable outcome, but the fact remains that our entire profession is predicated upon the fact that the number of qualified people in the profession is actually much. I mean, when I say qualified, I actually mean competent here. that is a fraction of the number of people who are having the necessary eligible degree to practice. Now that's a reflection on our education, that's and the system. That's not a reflection on those individuals. Had they been given the proper training from the very beginning, many of them would have been very good lawyers. But that is the problem, right? It is the number of openings is always very, very minuscule, and there is always a number of warm bodies to throw at a problem. And eventually, why even consider that, in some cases, throwing a warm body at a problem may prove to be, to a lot of lawyers and law firms, who do end up exploiting human labor to a whole new level. For them, that kind of exploitation may come even much cheaper compared to subscribing to an AI model and getting the work done. That's a very pessimistic view of looking at things, but I still am cynical also. But I do think that is the case. I mean, I have had direct interaction with a large number of my students and outsiders who are trying to make an entry into the legal profession, and I am merely reflecting what I have seen and heard myself.
Yeah, so I also feel that it's faster. I mean, it will definitely help. It will be faster. It will be more reliable. You have to train juniors. You have to explain them the what is the contract about. So AI would be faster and more affordable in terms of servicing clients. So that will definitely be helpful.
Okay. So the discussion that we were having earlier, we have a comment. Someone says that important point is students should know the shortcomings of AI tools for which both the mentee and mentor need to work upon. Also, I just want to remind our viewers that if they have any questions, they may ask our panelists, and those who ask the three best questions, they will get a free subscription to the Hindu online. So, yeah, moving. Yeah.
Oh, had I known that is available, I would have tried to planned a few questions. I really need a few free subscription of Hindu. I mean, it is costing me a lot every month. But anyhow,
maybe three of us should ask one question each, best to each other.
should have worked. But it's interesting that Rohit actually made this very interesting point about the AI training data. You see, most of the biggest problem as of now that people in India who are working in this intersection between AI and law, who are designing new algorithms for this purpose, as people who represent some such groups, I can tell you that the biggest problem we have is that Indian legal data is not accessible. Period. That's it. Even among case laws that we talk about, while India Kanun, as Rohit had mentioned, has been a great leveler of playing field. But even there, the biggest problem is that the data that we have on which AI should be trained should be as lower code data as possible, which is rich in facts, and not only the legal reasoning part, which comes from as you go up, the High Court and the Supreme Court cases. And well, how many lower court proper data with using cases are actually accessible? We need the briefs of the parties who are actually filing the petitions in order to figure out the nuances of the arguments based on which the judge is speaking something. So we are training our models based on the judgments, which are essentially a very one-sided perspective of the overall picture. I mean, that's a good perspective. The judge has that. That's a reasonable perspective. But that does not give us the entire picture. So, and we can't train bulk models else with data from one of these paid websites, be it databases, be it Manupatra or SCC Online, and that's a huge issue. We don't have arbitration proceedings with which we can train the AI models to train them on the data to process and come up with relevant solutions. So until and unless we make Indian legal data not only available but also accessible, we are always going to have to rely upon Western models for this purpose, which are repurposed basically, and that accounts for a lot of hallucinations, by the way. Not to make a point and not to make a fine point, there is also the issue that in India, if we want to really make legal data readable and processed by AI to come up with solutions, to come up with faster reports, efficiency, etc., we need to make our legal data structured. Our judgments are not structured. You compare with, say, how LexisNexis and Westlaw have made a revolution in terms of processing data from case law data from UK and US, you will find that the judgments have become structured. So there is an entire field on legal analytics, and how many as lawyers are being trained in this field so that the future judges who are writing the judgments, they can also figure out that if they follow a certain standard and pattern, of course there will be room for innovation within that. But we don't have this uniform structures, and this is somewhere I think the policymakers should start to think about, that if you want there is enough talent and processing abilities and powers and innovation in India. But if we really want to develop legal AI tools for the next generation, which is, in India, made in India, then we have to make our legal data and our approach to coming up with structured legal data a lot more democratized and a lot more homogeneous. Not to mention, friendlier to languages other than English. Thank
Hmm.
you.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir. It definitely needs to be democratized. I think I just announced about free subscription, and we have a really good question coming in. So there's this person, Ritika. She's asking, I would like to ask, assuming AI becomes a usual research assistant, should there be a rethinking as to convert from traditional law library model and instead just teach students how to formulate better prompts to be more efficient at the curriculum? Any of you?
Oh, God. I mean, I would say we have 3 years or 5 years, as the case may be, to train the students. I mean, why limit ourselves to one or the other? I was actually asked by my seniors that you should learn how to read AIR manuals and come up with a case law, because what if you are being asked to come up with a research and your internet is not working? What you will say that I can't do the work? That's not how it works, right? So we still have not gravitated to that form wherein only prompt designing is going to train our students sufficiently, because in order to be able to design better prompts, we also need our students to understand that what is the fundamental research that they're supposed to do. So train them in the art and then help them see how it is easier, which is why today I can use AI models for the purpose of prompt development or prompt engineering to make my work a lot easier. But that is because of the fact that I have had, my esteemed teachers. They spend night after night and day after day to drive all those things to be in my head the hard way. That is the reason why I have gained that appreciation. I don't think it's either or. Has to be a mix of both, and we have sufficient time in law school to train students in both the things effectively, provided the teachers have to learn that first. First, you train the teachers how to do prompt engineering. Then only the teacher can actually train you how to do prompt engineering, right? It can't happen one way or another. I mean, I can tell you that if you conduct a proper survey today of all law teachers in India who are basically just reading up, who have read at least one paper on how legal pedagogy has been changing across the world, legal curriculum has been changing across the world in response to AI and Gen AI models, you will find that the percentage will not reach two figure digits. Okay, and that's the problem. That's the reality.
Also,
Yeah.
I'd like to add one line here. I think Manupatra is also, integrating with AI. So it's not something that we have to, completely rely on AI or completely rely on Manupatra. Manupatra has also come up with, AI search and all. So that is also helping students and us in terms of, conducting our research. So it has
So
to be integrated.
yeah. So you mentioned a really interesting point when we were talking that if students are supposed to be taught prompt engineering, teachers first need to be trained in this. So that brings me to my next question. Is there any way that we can use AI to train faculty and develop different kind of pedagogies? Rohit or Sir, any of you?
Rohit, go. I'll
uh,
first take the student's perspective. Then I will.
I think with before that, I also would like to like briefly respond to what Ritika was asking. I think we should not see AI as the end, but a means to an end. So maybe when you are using AI as a research assistant, maybe we can use them for brainstorming for the ideas. But I still believe we need to first understand what is the purpose of our legal education also, right? And what is happening with a lot of students is they are delegating the thinking abilities to AI, which I think is borderline going into a risk territory where our purpose as a human, which is like we are changing the way why our purpose, our identity as a human is also shifting, right? We should not delegate that identity to AI. So I would just say with that thought. And in terms of pedagogies, what I believe that the power of AI in this way is, first of all, AI can you see my screen? Can you show my screen to the audience? If that's, yeah. Yeah, so one of the biggest thing which I believe, I want AI to do my laundry and dishes so that I can do art and writing, not for AI to do my art and writing so that I can do my laundry and dishes, which is one of my favorite code whenever I talk about AI. One of the really powerful thing which AI can do is bridge learning disabilities. And I can tell you one thing which no very few faculties, as Shauvikda also mentioned, very few faculties are realizing, is that the generation which is coming is the generation who used social media, Instagram, all kind of tools right from the beginning, right? Like they have been using it for almost a decade, over a decade now. So there's also popular emergence of very, very low attention span. So one of the things which we need to train faculties also on, how with limited attention spans, how we can engage audiences better. That is first thing. And I won't address 2 points because Shavikda has already mentioned. Second, third is innovative joy and culturally response-based pedagogy. I'll come to this later, but for AI can very well do a linguistic bridge. Like imagine, and we are testing this out as part of our organization on how, and we need to teach everyone. And I fully disagree with our home minister when he said that we need not teach English to students, because I think we need to teach English and local language to every law students who's going out there. English should be taught to everyone. It's a global language, but they should not feel inferiority complex just because they are a Bengali student or they are a Tamil student or they are a Marathi student, right? Then we need to so in terms of joy and cultural response based pedagogy, some of the tools which we are designing is how to utilize polling in the classroom, right? We are also designing a board game which can teach basics of contract law, how to utilize comic books. And one of the things which is required is law professors need to improve their game in terms of storytelling. They are still not seeing their roles as storyteller. Audience, we need to bring back attention to the classroom, and that attention will only come when law professors. And one of the best part of AI which I totally love is, I tell the prompt, explain to me like a 12-year-old, 7-year-old and 15-year-old. Ideally faculty should have done that. Ideally faculty should have broken down these concepts in so easy language that any person who's coming from Bangalore or Mangalore or any smaller town from Karnataka would be able to understand also. So I think one of the things which we need to build more joy based pedagogies in the classroom, right? Simulations, Shavikda already mentioned. Imagine tomorrow I have a chatbot, I have a personalized chatbot which is just trained on Justice Chandrachud's judgment, for example, and I'm just arguing and negotiating with it. I'm asking how those judgments are playing out, right? We also need to rethink that what are the personalized experience which we can build in the classroom. And one of the best thing is faculty need to drop off the act that they are the expert. Honestly speaking, it is right time that faculty needs to play the role of facilitators. Teachers should understand that their role now lies more in facilitation more than being the sole knowledge holder of the classroom. There is a good possibility, and that's where I think a very amazing concept is maybe create breakout rooms in the classroom whenever you introduce a topic. Imagine if a classroom of 60 people, if you're introducing a topic, create 12 breakout rooms which civil society has actually cracked in some way. 5 people breakout rooms, and then these 5 people discuss with each other. Because at the end of the day, as humans, we want to be heard, we want to be seen. And when we break out classroom into multiple small units, there's a good possibility that someone who is from Dalit background, Adivasi background, gender, from marginalized groups, they bring out their perspective on certain law, right? We don't talk about the cost of contract law and efficiency of contract law, construction contract law, and displacement. We have never talked about that, right? And which is missing. And imagine if someone whose basti or whose house has been displaced because of a contract, if they bring out their perspective, then the classroom become more holistic. Which also I had mentioned about cultural response pedagogies. Our classroom, and there was a National Knowledge High Commission in 2006, which actually said that we are universalizing what has worked in Delhi for legal education to entire part of India. There's a good possibility in Chhattisgarh land reforms law might be taught might be the need of the hour more than probably some other law which we are teaching. Why is environmental law not being normalized? We are not understanding the needs. We are still in the process of 90s legal education. We are not understanding that joy, fun needs to be there. We are not understanding memes, reels. These are part of the local. Everything is part of the first and second year who are entering these law schools, and these law students these people have also lost 2 years due to COVID, which means that they jumped 2 classrooms. So with these thoughts, I'll maybe hand it over to Sonam and Shavik that to add.
Yeah, and this is what Rohit also very clearly and articulately mentioned is that, see, for those any teacher who is actually listening to him and who may be thinking that, oh, this is very radical thinking. How will I get the time? How will I get the infrastructure to have 12 breakout rooms? How will I do this regularly? To them, my only suggestion would be that forget about doing it for the 60 hours of class that you will have with students in a semester. Start small. Try one day. For a large number of reasons, our classes get cancelled, one class doesn't happen, something. So consider this class as a wastage only. And then try something out. Because see, we are somewhere at the cusp of this generational change insofar as legal education is concerned. We can keep on saying that what they are doing, I mean, whatever did not exist when I was a student and is bad. And whatever existed during the way I was being taught, all of that was good because that has made me the person I am. Not necessarily. There are a lot of things I know which I know now which I had been taught when I was a student. I mean, or then my legal education would have been a better experience. So it's okay to say that acknowledge the fact that because of a large number of reasons, the existing attention span, the existing focus capacity of a student has reduced on an average. But if it is so, then what? Then what do we do? Do we simply say, oh, status quo, I don't really care. Students have to buck up. Students have to take their A game, bring their A game to the classroom. Why? I'm putting in the effort. Why can't they? No, that is to me, that's a very problematic approach, because that is the approach which had led us to think that there need not be any differential approach towards people with learning disabilities even before COVID. I have seen multiple occasions wherein we just don't take into account of students with disabilities in classroom, thinking that, oh, what can I do for one student or two student, or this reserved 2%. I mean, they will have to figure out something for themselves. Now that kind of thinking means that I'm not being a teacher to them. And Rohit mentioned comics. I mean, these are ideas which are being done. I myself had experimented with courses like that, and I have seen that the students are they're better invested in the classroom, better participating more. And if our end goal is to teach them, our end goal is not to show how knowledgeable we are to them, and our end goal is not to train people who are our contemporaries. Our end goal is to teach this generation. And I would not say teach, I would say our end goal is to help this generation to learn. And if so, we will have to figure out things which matter to them. We have to speak their language, we have to understand their culture, we have to figure out where they're coming from, because that makes our task easier, not harder. That's the main idea, right? So we talk about cultural ethics. So we have today AI. I have a cohort of 60 students in front of me. In 60 minutes, how am I able to figure out the body language of each single individual? And based on that, I figure out somebody's understanding or not, somebody having an articulation problem or not. On occasions, who are very good teachers may be able to do so in specific cases, but not everybody at all times. This is where the personalized attention span, which can be used by AI tutors, they can give us feedback. The instructors can be given feedback that probably this student was not understanding. Can you take him separately and try to ask him about something in the next class, how might have done. And Rohit also very rightly pointed out the need for diversity. The need for diversity comes not only in AI training, but it also comes in designing this curriculum. The interdisciplinary curriculum is a need of the hour. We cannot have only law teachers have the last word in saying even legal curriculum. Of course, they will play the major role. But if use a visualization aspect, take somebody so I came across this initiative on university, which had its law department and its design department coming together and coming up with very simple small comics and graphic novels explaining different aspects of constitutional law, family law, things like that. Now, do you really think that is going to be less effective than me droning on about 1 hour about theories and what had happened in an 1861 case? Certainly not. Doesn't mean that my pedagogy needs to be thrown out of the window. I'm simply saying harmonious interpretation. That's something we are taught as part of interpretation of statutes, right? I think that's something which is necessary for interpretation of pedagogy also. Thank you.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I think fun pedagogies, and yeah, I think all of that can be implemented. Yeah, Sonu ma'am, do you have anything to say?
I think they've covered it, pretty well.
Okay, so we have a very interesting question coming in. We'll take that question, and yeah. So there is this person, Kirtana. So they are saying, if AI can predict legal outcomes based on past judgment, is there a risk that it might discourage progressive or dissenting judgments in future courts?
Absolutely, and the chilling effect is there, but that is predicating on the purpose that we are relying upon what the AI is telling us to do. That's where the training part comes, right? Untrained,
Yeah.
that is exactly what we are going to do. Untrained, that is exactly what the students are going to learn. But the
Mm,
idea is the AI is not supposed to predict decisions for us. At the most,
mm,
it can be used for scenarios when I am a litigant. I need, or as a litigator, I need to figure out what are the chances for this kind of argument to wash before a court of law. So those are different things. Predictive analytics are obviously a part of jurimetry and other rules, but that does not mean the judge is going to ask the AI, what am I going to tell me, what am I going to do in these cases. But what the
mm.
judge can do, he sees our trial court judges. They suffer under, I mean, such a burden of caseload that I'm very surprised that they get the chance to go through a single, brief properly every day. But imagine a scenario where they have to write 50 similar judgments on a given day. Now you get an AI forward template, most of the things will be done, and you still are a judge. You can distinguish between one case and another. So you make the points accordingly. And it is true that over reliance upon AI is going to tell us that this is the template and we cannot go beyond that. But that is why we have pedagogical differences and even model differences between human in the loop, human on the loop, and human out of the loop. But in all of those cases, the human being's presence is ubiquitous. That cannot be done away with.
Got it. We'll take one last question. We are already past 6. We have one. We have a question. So there are a couple of questions which all surround around privacy. So I'll just flash this one question out of those. With increasing role of AI in legal systems, what safeguards are needed to ensure these tools uphold core constitutional principles such as privacy, non-discrimination, and fairness? I think privacy of data of your clients and etc. could be an issue. So how do we tackle that?
RAI, XAI, that is the reason why these jargons are coming up, right? Responsible AI actually incorporates is an AI which is actually going to be, rolled out or deployed only after they satisfy these tests. That is the reason why we are thinking of AI audit principles today. That is the reason why we are thinking of regulatory sandboxes within which AI models can work, and only if they are satisfying these requirements, only then they will be rolled out. But for that purpose to happen, we also have to take into consideration the fact that whether the people who are the AI users, what knowledge do they have about these regulations that AI is planning to? I mean, we are asking AI to be perfect, and fine, that's a great aspiration. But are the human beings we are working around in all those cases, are they perfect? If they are not, then I don't think we should wait for a perfect AI to come before that can be actually allowed to operate. Because AI also learns from feedback. So you give feedback when you are seeing your, operate it within a sandbox, see that whether it is going wrong, and teach it. In more ways than one, AI is like a child. Whatever training it receives, that is what it will, that's what it will learn, and that's what it can unlearn also. And that is somewhere we have to, I mean, if we think about it, how many people in our country are really really bothered about data protection aspects? How many even read the cookie policies of a website which they're using? So at this point of time, if we want to say that the AI should be trained on the data and behavioral usage of these people, if AI should be able to be 100% compliant with everything, then I think that's a bit of an unrealistic expectation, right? But that doesn't mean that we should give up that aspiration. That's a process.
Sonam ma'am, would you like to add to this?
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of things, right? I mean, we also sign confidentiality agreement with the client, and I mean, we should only use AI in case of important cases, in terms of restricting our our case to only research and not uploading any sensitive documents or sensitive informations, or I think we should limit data exposure to AI, and we should only rely only in cases of research. For example, if I'm taking up any case and I want to research any judgment, or I want any summary to be prepared, I rely on my associates to prepare the summary. But when we need any judgments, we only use AI at that point in time. So it is very important for us to also, use it sensitively in terms of uploading the data, because the risk always remains. I mean, data AI is not yet regulated, right? So I mean, we also try and exercise that caution when we are uploading any sensitive information, because the stakes are high, right? I mean, it could also hamper the reputation of the client, it could hamper the reputation of the firm. So we try and limit data exposure in terms of uploading any information on the AI.
Okay, got it. We just got one question. We'll just take this question. Shoaib sir, it is for you. To what extent should AI literacy be made mandatory component of legal curriculum in India, and what key elements should such a course include?
Oh, the second question would require me to lay down the course, and I don't think we have the time for that. But the first question is yes, of course, AI literacy should be there. And I would say that it should be as much a top down model as a bottoms up, as in get the administrators to learn what the potentials of these platforms and what are the pitfalls, get the teachers to learn. Just as it's important for the students to learn, I mean, if we are the ones who are in charge of their learning, right? So we are the ones who have to figure it out first, what is that is they're going to do. But it is, I mean, because a lot of I think it will be found out that compared to teachers who belong to my generation or maybe a little bit younger than me or others, so compared to us, the students are actually a lot more AI literate, because we have now AI as part of our school-based curriculum. So they may not need as much of basic training about what AI means, but they need us to show how AI can be used responsibly and how AI can be used in the context of the education with, I mean, that part of the education which they're entrusting to us. So you can have, as Rohit pointed out, very excellent idea, and we have been toying with that idea in different projects. Gamification of problems. How do you change a simulation into a game, or how do you come up with problem-solving techniques? How do you teach that to people? I mean, today, if I could, I would have given application-based problem customized for each of my 190 students. Now I can't do that today, but with the help of an AI, I can come up with a problem and I can come up with hundreds of variations of that problem for each of the students. And that can actually take into account, if I am sensitized about the diversity that my students belong to, I can also try to simulate and customize their problems for that. So it's a very different thing. The way a medical profession would go about AI literacy need not be the same way that a legal professional will go about AI literacy. But the important point is that we have to think that, do we really want our students to face the world, or do we want them to remain in the cloistered groves of academia? If the second part is the case, then, well, whether we use AI or not may not make much of a difference. But if it is the first part which is our goal, we have to help them a little bit, and in the process, we have to learn from them. How they are incorporating a training with regard to AI may actually teach us a lot more about AI than a 30-minute training video can do. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. It was a wonderful session. Thank you so much for all your insights, all of you. Thank you, Sonam ma'am, for joining. Thank you, Rohit. Thank you,
Ravina,
Shobit, sir.
before we
Yeah.
end, I would just maybe just do one closing remark to all of the people who are anxious about not knowing AI. I think future of all the isolation which is going on will be human. So I think just be kind and empathetic towards whatever we are building. I think that skill will always remain relevant, as Sonam earlier also pointed out, that human element will always be there, which makes us lawyer and human. So with that, I just wanted to conclude.
Yeah, that's a good thought to close this webinar at. Yeah. Thank you so much everyone for joining.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you.